Yeah, we are live.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to today's session on finance and music, focusing on innovation in independent music. I'm Amya Gupta. I'm a final year student of BCom Honors in Jindal School of Banking and Finance, and I'm also a member of the Music Society. This session is a joint effort of the Jindal School of Banking and Finance and the Music Society, and I'm very glad to be representing both. I warmly welcome both our speakers for today who have dedicated their careers in raising talent from all walks of life and also work with artists who focus on delivering quality in their creativity. So on the panel we have Mr. Anirudh Vuleti. He's currently a senior artist manager in Big Bad Wolf Entertainment, one of India's leading artist managers with over a decade of experience, representing some amazing talents such as Prateek Kohart, one of the country's leading singer-songwriters, Kamakshi Khanna, Pentagram, Karsh Kale, and many others. He's working with various brands to help the artists and find appropriate creative solutions for their needs. We also have Rahul Sinha. He's the entrepreneur and independent music artist manager and is the CEO and founder of Under the Radar Private Limited. Rahul Sinha is one of the most experienced young artist managers for Indian independent musicians, focusing on electronic, pop, and dance music. Currently, Rahul and his team manage Ritviz, India's highest streamed independent musician, Nuclear, the country's biggest dance music, and also Anish Sood, one of India's finest house music producers and acclaimed songwriters, and Darwin John, an upcoming 19-year-old independent music prodigy. I also have Professor Dr. Priya Kanungo with me moderating this session. She's the Associate Professor of Performing Arts and Assistant Dean in Students Cultural Entertainment Group of JGU. Professor Priya Kanungo teaches music and communication skills in the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. She has a PhD in music and has worked as a journalist too. Welcome to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Samya. Hello, Anirudh and Rahul and Pulkit. Just before we start, I'd like to let everybody know how we're planning to pull this through for 1 hour. And so to start with, we'll have a discussion of about 35-40 minutes, followed by a question-answer session. So those of you who are listening in, prepare some very tough questions. And then we will conclude with our in-house Jindal University musical talent. So should we start then? So Anirudh and Rahul, I'd like to begin the session by asking a very, very basic question. You know what the topic is. So what do you think is independent music, and who would you consider independent artists? So Anirudh, would you like to take this first?
Sure. I mean, for me personally, independent music has always been about the ethos of having the freedom to actually think creatively and come up with creative solutions and creative ideas. That is innate to both the music as well as the strategy that goes into putting that music out in the world. That's pretty much the crux of what independent music for me is personally. I mean, it differs for different artists, and obviously, like, it's different for different people at different stages in their careers. But when it starts out, it's basically the fact that there are no boundaries and there are no rules and there are no limitations to who and what and why they want to be a certain kind. I mean, that's my long and short of what I feel independent music is.
Okay, and Rahul, would you like to add to that?
It's very similar, I believe. I think what Anirudh said as well is mainly comes with the freedom of how we choose to do things. A lot of times, I think the independent artists are assumed not to be artists that could have associations with labels, but I think that's the biggest myth there is that independent artists are as much able to work with labels or not work with labels. Right? So and it's not a set strategy as to saying that, okay, I'm only going to work with labels and I'm only going to put big commercial hits out with films, but also being able to say that, I want to do everything. I want to do what I feel right at whatever point in my career. If 1 year I don't feel like doing films, I don't. I do music just for myself. And the next year, if I feel like doing just music for films, then I do that. And then third year, if I don't want to do any music at all, then you can do that also.
Right.
But yeah.
So can I just jump in here? What I wanted to say is, supposing this year I don't want to work in films and I just want to do something of my own. And next year I want to do something for films. So that year, am I not an independent artist? And this year, am I an independent artist?
No,
I don't think there's any such rule as such to that.
So I just, why I'm asking this is, how do I differentiate between an independent artist and any other artist? Because every artist wants some kind of freedom to do what he or she wants to do. So how do I closet myself as an independent artist?
I mean, independent music means that you're free from boundaries. I mean, and you're free to express what you want to express. You're free to share what you want to share. You're free to put things out in a manner that you want to put out, and you're in control of everything.
So just to get a little clarity, what would you say are the boundaries which an independent artist would not want to be within?
India is pretty much a market that till very recently, I mean, especially in the last few years, was a market completely controlled by Bollywood. It still is. Let's not deny that. The power of Bollywood is the power of Bollywood. But there's, with the advent of streaming and with the advent of digital technologies that exist now for everyone to consume music, it's become a lot easier for independent artists to put their own music out there. For example, an artist like Ritviz, maybe 7, 8 years ago, maybe would have found it a lot harder to break out. But because he's been able to create a visual identity to his whole music and create a lot of that sound, I believe he's found an audience. I mean, sorry, I'm speaking for one of Rahul's artists, but that's just something that we all collectively feel. He's pretty much the go-to guy when you talk about independent music in India right now. So, I mean, I don't think there are any boundaries as such in music. The rule is that, like a lot of artists that work in Bollywood don't own their music. They give the music rights away to record labels or to the production houses behind them, because that's the model that the Bollywood industry works with. And that works for them and works for those people. For us and for the artists that we work with so far, they want to retain control over their music, as well as retain control over the creative things that happen with that music as well. And that's where the ethos of being independent and the basis of being independent comes in.
I'll also kind of add to
that. Sure.
Just to add to that, if you look at film music, it's very format based. If you watch some of the biggest films in the country today, when it comes to in the Bollywood sphere, you have 5 types of songs. There's a love song, there's a sad song, there's a wedding song, or there's some party song, or there'll be a 5th song or something.
Which you don't want to define right now.
Yeah, it's very defined, right? Like
okay.
And in the larger scope of the music business in India, which is Bollywood, right? A lot of creative people who want to make music, for example, just are asked rather to kind of stick to certain norms. If you go to the US, there is a film industry there also, but their music industry is not called Hollywood. Their music industry is a standalone business, and the film industry is a standalone business, and they both coexist independently. There is no Bollywood and independent in the Hollywood and independent in the US, right? Exactly. Independent music as a protest of sorts against the mainstream film music, which was
Right.
very well defined. And it has no genres, it has no boundaries, in the sense that there is going to be nothing. You are not writing music for a visual. You are writing music independently. You could choose to have a visual attached to it,
Okay.
or or not. But you first write the music, and not make the film first and then retrofit music
Okay.
back.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Just to take this forward, what you said, Rahul, you're talking about the United States. So, how is it different in India versus the rest of the world?
Independent music or the
Yes,
music
yes.
business? Um,
Independent music. Do you think there is a proper base here in India in comparison to how it is in the West or internationally?
I mean, I would say that it's a lot more structured and defined in the US, unlike a lot of other things as well. Um, but what we have in India is not bad. I think what we have in India is the best that we can do so far, and we've been doing this for about 20 years. We've I think today, if you look at it, classical music has always been independent. Rock music was on top of every charts from like the 95 to the 2000 to 2005s, and so on and so forth. Like, we've had many genres break the ceiling in independent music in India. With Nuclear, the whole electronic dance music ceiling broke. With Divine, the whole hip hop ceiling broke. With Pratik, the whole singer-songwriter ceiling broke. And it's only led to more and more progress within the industry. I think 5 years ago, there were every big independent artist, for example, like a Sonu Nigam or a Kailash Kher or Lucky Ali, once they reached the ceiling, they moved into Bollywood, and that was pretty much the end of their independent career. But today you will see independent artists not shifting their focus entirely off to Bollywood once they reach the peak of their current growth, and they choose to not. Pratik could do films today, but he will still go on to release his independent stuff or go on to work with bigger international artists or whatnot, right? And he will. I don't think he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy that would want to restrict himself just to Bollywood tomorrow,
Right.
and just then kind of close the lid on his ceiling. So
Yeah. So now that you both set the stage for what independent music is and who the artists involved are, we'll now move into the crux of the discussion, which is financing this.
Yes. So now that we've talked about the base of it, I think the main discussion of this whole session is finance and music. So, like many independent artists right now are struggling to find the finance for the music. Like, they have the talent, but they don't have the resources. So what do you think, how to monetize their content? How do you monetize the artists you're already managing? What are the how do you collaborate with brands to monetize that kind of content? Like, how do you bring in the money into this whole picture? And how these budding artists, how should budding artists who are struggling to do this, how should they monetize their content? Please, Rahul sir, Anirudh sir, can you please add your views to this?
Well, there's income from two sides largely in our business. One is the live side of the business, which for all practical purposes is shut for the foreseeable future. And whenever that happens, we will all be partying in your college, hopefully, and playing gigs there. But till then, I mean, there's the recorded side of the business, which is where things are at, where artists make money off the streaming revenue that basically comes out of all the streams that get generated off all the streaming platforms. 3 years, 4. I mean, I would even take it down to like 5 years ago. There was no streaming, so there was no revenue.
Yes.
So it was all like people basically sharing MP3s and whatever little piddly sums of money we would all make off of iTunes, which basically wouldn't even pay for a meal for 4 people. That was basically what album sales of some of the most established artists of this country were. We in fact had started a online store with Flipkart called Flight, which basically packed its ships within a year of starting the project with us, simply because it didn't make sense from a revenue point of view. So I mean, we've done a bunch. I mean, that's definitely one revenue source, which is the streaming income, which exists today. And it comes from YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, JioSaavn, Gaana, everyone that you can think of. And everyone pays a little bit of something. Everyone's reporting systems are different, but everyone pays something to the artists. Generally, that comes through a distributor who is distributing the music. And it gets collected, and you get royalty statements every quarter or every 6 months, depending on how much money you're generating. The other side of the revenue is when your music gets played in, say, an advertisement, for example. That is still to be tested in India in terms of where existing music starts getting synced to advertisements. That's sort of a market that exists very widely in the West, but doesn't exist in India as much. In India, what ends up happening is a brand will approach you to, hey, can you write a track? Will you license the track to us for a period of time? We'll use it in a campaign. You can retain the song, but we want a new unreleased song. That's something that tends to happen a lot now with independent artists in India. And we've done projects with, Prateek's done. And then there's obviously revenue that happens when you write songs for film or write songs for an ad or things like that. That's what you call sync income, basically. So those are your two broad categories under recorded music. I mean, there's obviously a lot more within that I'm probably missing between the cup and the lip, but broadly, those are the two major revenue streams for artists. And in this environment, I mean, generally now what's happening is a lot of distributors are offering advances to artists to actually like create their music and work on the music in exchange for a higher percentage on the returns that they get, or maybe a share or a percentage of what you make on live shows and other activities over a period of time. So that in the short coming, when you're not going to make money doing live shows, which is the mainstay for most artists, this is where you get some money so you can continue making your music. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Rahul, would you like to add to that?
Yes.
I think first and foremost, I'd like to say it doesn't cost money to make music. And honestly, if anybody's looking for a lot of funding to get a music career kicked off, it's not, I would say you will need money at some point along the way, and maybe lots of it. But making music barely costs the money that we're talking about. Of course, it requires some amount of capital for you to have your instruments or your or even just a laptop if you're a producer. But I think that's about it, and everybody anyone that chooses to take that plunge into music pretty much has that sorted most times. And from there on, it's about really kind of putting yourself out there. The industry doesn't make or break a musician in my eyes. It is the audience, right? It is when you are able to make, convert people, general people into fans, and then kind of grow that fan base. So it could start with 50 people, it could start with 100 people, and then kind of go from there. So just like any other business, it's about knowing how much investment you need at what time, right? Like your first year, you don't need 10 crores to go out and put yourself on top of every single banner. Ritviz was 19 when I started working with him, for example, right? He's 24 now. So, and I think we've come a long way, but we had no money, to be honest, when we started off, even though like we were signed with probably the biggest management company in the country. We still sat down and said, okay, fine, what do we have? We played 30 shows the last year. So we had X amount of money that was saved up. And we said, okay, fine, we're going to go and pay this money to one person to get a nice artwork made. Let's go to some people and get a good mix and master done. But largely we went out to find people who would be willing to support us. it took a while. It takes a while, right? Music is subjective. Creativity is so subjective. Is that something that I like is not necessary for someone else to like it. I might think a song is like I heard Ud Gaye, which is Ritwiz's biggest song, about 8 months before the song went out, right? But and while I really liked it, I went to literally every label that I knew. I went to every streaming service I knew. I went to every distributor I knew, and none of them felt like it was unique at all. But when we sat down, I remember sitting down in front of AIB and Tanmay and Nuclear and Bacardi, and those people really vibed with it. They really believed in us, and they said, "Dude, this is perfect for what we're looking for." And they didn't want to change anything. They didn't want to do, fix any screws here and there. They said, "Dude, what you do is what is epic, and what we're gonna do is put our power and might behind it." And without a doubt, that song became one of the biggest songs in the country.
Truly. Ud Gaye was a total phase even when I was in school. So me and my friends, when the first time we heard it, like it was a total phase in our school that time. So it was a big hit. Ud Gaye was a big hit for sure.
Like the only money that went behind it was like about 5 lakhs rupees that was spent on making that music video. But a lot of the other things that went behind it was 20 years of Ritwiz's life that he has spent working on that art, right? And making that song, which all of us really liked. Nobody knew it was going to be a hit, right? And if anybody will claim that they knew it before it went out, they're lying. As simple as that. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't know it. So I think it's all about how you kind of find the right things that work for you. Money is not the only way to become famous, or making money is not the only metric for success.
So from what I gather is that, there is really no method in this madness. Okay. But just to ask you a pointed question in this case, Ritwiz and you, how did you connect?
And
what is it that made you see, okay, this is somebody who's a first timer, and and the work needs to be projected?
When you ask how did you guys connect, you mean how did we meet, or where how?
No, in the sense, how did the artist manager and the artist gel and then take it forward? Because ultimately it's a project, right? Because he's the artist, he does the creative work, but you as the manager has to take it forward, right? So how did the dynamics work?
I think, like I said, again, it's a process. We met each other. We both knew something about each other, which I think inclined both of us to want to work with the other person. I had known what he had done in the last 1-2 years as an 18-year-old kid. And I wasn't too old myself. I'm not too old now either, but I was also pretty young, and I had been working with Nuclear before that. So, he kind of looked up to me because he also looked up to Nuclear quite a lot. And when we sat down together to say that, okay, fine, there's an opportunity for us to work together. I think both of us were really excited. Both of us were keen on the idea of it. And from there was a process. It's a lot of trial and error. So that's what we kind of set off on. And we had 1-2 things that didn't work. We had 1-2 things that worked. There was a bunch of things that we just said no to. That was the first time in his life, in his career, we were saying no to things. And this is before we even became famous, right? This was just about something we felt that, it was just a small decision for us about whether we felt like we would be happy doing something or would not be happy doing something. And that was it. And I think those decisions really kind of helped us understand each other better. And those decisions helped each of us kind of gain trust in the other person a little more. And, because we navigated through things that we didn't expect coming our way, and we were good with that. So, and then obviously when you see success, that's when a lot of your a lot of these relationships really solidified there. Because we could have gone on to do that for like 2 years, but maybe after 2 years, both of us would have questioned, okay, fine, you know what, where are we going? What's happening? Do I need a new manager or like something else? But fortunately, luck was on our side and certain things fell in place. And then life kind of took a 360 in about 8 months. And then then you sit down with the person all over again and you say, okay, fine, you know what, we just did something. That means that this is working. So let's go out and do this properly, and that's how the journey kind of just went on. I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Anirudh, so I think all of us want to know how Prateek Kohad and you also met. So I believe that he joined the agency, I think 2 years back. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
Correct. So actually, I was his booking agent, and the company was, while me at the company, I was representing him as his booking agent since 2015. Coincidentally, I was working at the company called OML before that, where I happened to be the person who booked him for the first ever show that he played in India. He ended up coming to India, seeing The Weekender for the first time, and actually being like, dude, this is amazing. And 3 months later, decided to move back to India and work with another manager. And then that sort of like developed his entire repertoire over a period of 5 years. I've been managing him for officially 2 years this month. But it's been a crazy ride for the last couple of years. From the time Cold Mess released, everything's gone from playing 300 capacity rooms to selling out a 9,000 capacity show in Delhi last season, and touring around the world, meeting people from all walks of life, showing up to shows, saying we're just having a great time, and obviously popping onto President Obama's list of songs of 2019 was probably the best end of 2019 that we could have all dreamt of. We were all holidaying, and suddenly I get this call at 10:30 at night from him, like, dude, like, are you joking? And I was like, no, this is real. And I had no clue because I hadn't even seen it. And then I saw it. So yeah, I mean, it's good validation to know that the work that you put in actually gets seen, and the internet's a great place, in my opinion, for things to just grow and build and develop over a period of time. I mean, his last video is a case and example to that as well. Kasoor is pretty much that. We actually had the idea sometime end of last year. It wasn't a lockdown concept, but we ended up executing it post us all getting shut down. And we did it entire via his fan base of like, we had close to 700 entries from various people. So, I mean, the video that you see is actually not representative of the amount of entries that we got. And all the love that all the fans have shown post the release of the video has just been phenomenal. I mean, there's no money you can put into real fans and into real value. That's what I mean by, that's where I totally agree with what Rahul says. It's all about doing things the right way and figuring things out as you go and developing overall plans as you build. And like we were saying, there is no one size fits all strategy to this business at all.
So I think, I remember Prateek Kohad, he had an interview with Rolling Stone India. So in that, he had mentioned that, most people try to figure out what new to bring into the thing, like without focusing on the basics and perfecting them. So like, what is your say in this? Like, do you need new strategies, any kind of new strategies to build the image, or is it about, giving that perfection to the basic ways of, flourishing in this sector? Like, what is your view on this?
For him, most definitely, it's about focusing on the basics, which is for him is writing a song and writing it and producing it in the best manner possible, putting it out in the best manner possible, which means at that point, it's a different thing. When you're writing the song, it's about him and his guitar, or him and his production system actually just writing the song. And then it leads into him actually, like, once the song is ready, stepping into a studio and actually recording it with the right musicians and the right producers. Once that's done, you sort of think about the artwork for the song. Then you think about the visual identity that you want to create for the song. Then once the visual identity is done, you start thinking of how to come up with a marketing strategy for that particular song. And honestly, I think he's definitely one of the few people that I know in today's day and age who's actually fully hands-on and wants to be involved in every step of the way. And it's a reason for why a lot of things work. And we don't do anything super complicated. It's all about using the tools that are available at our disposal to actually do fun and cool and interesting things for everybody. So,
can I jump in here? For a first-time independent artist to go public, like you said, the internet is a great place, but the internet is also a very crowded place. So how does that person find a voice and get noticed? What is it that you all do for it?
You go to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. You're so right. It's more crowded than Bombay streets.
Right.
And I think now more than ever, the only thing this kind of points towards is that you have to stand out. You're making art, right? And at the end of the day, like, people will appreciate good art. What is good is good, and nobody can deny that. So, you just have to kind of keep trying. If there was a formula, all of us would be famous.
yeah. I totally agree with that entirely.
Yeah, you have to keep trying. Like, some people, like Ritviz was fortunate to get his break, so to say, at 21, but Nuclear wasn't so fortunate, and he got his break at 35. And dude, I'm not even 35 yet, so I don't know how it might feel to be like trying till then. But I mean, you just have to. He's one of the best examples of like really being one guy that just kept trying. And I think once you also get your big break, I think it doesn't get easier from there. In fact, it gets even harder, right? Because now you have to live up to it. So it's not easy at any point. Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go on. Amya, you can take the next question.
So now that we've talked about finance, I think digital innovation is a very important factor in getting the artist to where he is. So you know how like the digital innovation has changed over the years. Like 5 to 7 years back, there were no streaming platforms, or people weren't really using these streaming platforms. So how do you think the digital distribution innovation in this industry has helped the independent artists, to rise to where they are? Rahul, so can you add to this?
I mean, there's a lot of different mediums now, but how it has helped is that it's made things a lot more easier. Like, obviously 10 years ago, if you wanted to put out an album, you would need some like 5-6 deals to get that really out in the market. But today you don't. It's just a click away. You could be you could make music in your bedroom and also release it from your bedroom. Right, so that's the ease that technology has kind of given you, but what it has done, and I think it's about going back to the last point that ma'am made, was about how crowded it is. Even though technology has made it very easy, it's also made it easy for literally everyone, not just you. So it has thus resulted in being crowded. So what will really kind of help you change your game is marketing, right? I think for any brand, any product, whether it's a toothpaste or a machine gun, you need to, sorry, that's not a good usage of an example, but you need to market it well, right? You need to find the right marketing ideas that work for it. And if your marketing is not right, you will only get kind of average results, I would say. And unique marketing strategies are what's going to help you like break through the clutter at some point.
So, would you like to add to this?
To be honest, this is the best time for independent artists to be releasing music. Bollywood is shut. There is no Bollywood music coming out. So all the streaming platforms and everyone is absolutely willing to support independent music. I mean, nobody will go on record and say this, but all of them are very openly happy at some level that finally they can give the visibility that they want to give to the artists that they really truly love, and show them that support. Otherwise, they have mandates from the industry to not do that. But having said that, I think I mean, the fact that you can build a marketing strategy based off of social media, based off of a website, based off of like something as simple as a mailer base or a fan base, is definitely something that every artist should be thinking about and should be keeping front and center when they're coming up with releases, simply because that's the way you're going to create some intrigue and excitement for your fans about something that's coming up. Yeah, at the same time, you want to make sure that it's not invasive and it's not something that's too in your face. But at the same time, I mean, today we had a platform that shut down, but basically, TikTok and Triller and all the 15-second apps that exist, and all the other ones that have opened up and will hopefully survive. They all give support to like challenges and things like that are marketing gimmicks ultimately, but all of that creates a memory in the mind of the consumer who's using it about the song, and it all feeds back into the streams of the song, which help it to grow. So marketing strategies have to be at the front and center of everything.
Okay. So now we're going to change gears. We're going to have a Q&A session with people asking questions. Do we have any questions? Okay.
Yes,
there
ma'am.
is. Yeah. So before that, while we are sorting out questions, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being a Bollywood musician versus an independent musician?
There's no advantage or disadvantage. It's a choice of lifestyle, I believe. There's no real advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah, I totally believe that that's a very personal call for different artists. Some artists like to write music to a visual, and it's a skill set, in all honesty.
Right.
I mean, there are people who do that for a living in the West. They never wrote you've never heard a Hans Zimmer actually sit and write an album for just a release. He's always written music for a screen and a visual. And that's an art that some people have. Some people are very good at actually just writing without a visual in mind.
Right.
And without thinking of a visual. I used to work with an artist called Karsh Kale till very recently, and he never wanted to make a music video for a song because he always felt that it boxed the vision of the song. He wanted fans to just dream and think of the song in its entirety. So that's a very personal call for every artist, and there's no rules to that. Having said that, I mean, we unfortunately do live in the times of social media. And visual identity is a very key part of it. So that's there for sure.
One advantage of being a Bollywood artist, though, is that you will inevitably get plays on radio and TV and whatnot. Which, an artist, you could be the biggest man, you will have to cry in front of them to get it.
Yes,
correct.
That's right.
It's changing though, slowly. It's changing very slowly, but it'll happen. It's happening soon.
That we once this is back in 2016. A radio station approached Nuclear to make their station jingle, which is the identity of the radio. And we said, okay, fine. You know what? This is really cool. What a great opportunity! Thank you so much. We said, hey, while we do this, why don't you also play some of our music, which is currently like really on fire everywhere? And they straight up said, no, I'm sorry, we only play commercial chart busters, and we're like, I don't even know what that meant. But they still did not play his music, despite getting him to make their station jingle, which is a big honor in my eyes, like just being allowed to make the track that's going to play 10 million times in a day, to such a large set of people. And they approached us because they really liked the kind of music he made. And the hypocrisy of it is that he will not play his music on air. which is strange, and I don't see that changing right now either. It's kind of, I mean, I think that it's a different bubble, and it is what it is.
Okay,
So we have
I need to ask you a couple of questions which have come in. One is, there was a recent article which highlighted how artists earn a very small amount of what they generate for streaming platforms. What do you have to say about that?
Anirudh, sir.
It's a bone of contention, to be honest. There are no real maths to this business, and there's no real data that we have to say that, hey, this platform is paying exactly this much per stream. It's sort of like an approximation that you sort of back calculate. But I mean, it is an issue that I think we're all hoping will get resolved in the near future. But I mean, having said that, once you're hitting streams, you'll make a decent amount of money. It's not going to be insane or anything in comparison to what we all envision it to be. But you do make money. I mean, the artist does make a fair, sizable amount of money from those streams. It is that, but that's only once you have a certain base of people actually listening to your music.
So Rahul sir, there's a question. Could you please answer this? There's a question from Harshit. He's saying open mic is a great platform for the independent artists to grow, but is it fair if the artist has to pay to perform?
I don't think we have open mics in music, do we?
I mean, these are like singer-songwriter nights, I think.
Right.
Yeah, like
It's mostly
open mic
those
gigs.
kind of nights.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's fair personally, but maybe I'm not the right person to answer that either, because at the end of the day, it's a venue owner's choice as opposed to mine, because somebody has to pay. If you are not a big enough artist to pull in to sell tickets, then you need to understand that if a venue owner is investing in you, I don't know why else they would do it, right? And the venue owner to run this venue and allow you to also come and perform and play in front of an audience requires to put in a lot of money. There's a business on that end that requires supporting before artists can take stage. So I think there's two sides of this coin. I don't believe there's a right answer to this.
Yeah, but in 9 out of 10 cases, I just tell the artist, don't do it. I'm sorry. I'm just one of those people. I just never tell anybody to pay to play.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, like, it happens where sometimes an artist has to put in a lot of money to actually travel overseas, to actually feature on a special show and do certain things and be on a particular show. I still remember back in the day, Raghu Dixit had actually invested a bunch of money to actually travel halfway around to the UK to be featured on the Jules Holland show, and he happened to be on the same lineup as Adele, Robert Plant, and Arcade Fire. I mean, he wouldn't have got a better marketing opportunity than that, and no other money could have ever valued that, and that sort of cemented him for the next 3 years of touring in the UK.
Right.
So those sort of things are trade-offs that some artists sort of look at, but to pay to play, I don't think is sort of like a strategy that. I mean, if you have no money, how are you going to pay to play? Like, you're going to try and find a placement to get out there. So I see what Rahul's saying on the other side of the table, but I mean, I'm just talking from an artist point of view. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's another question which says, what's your say about the lockdown situation now? Like, how are the artists you are managing? How are they pulling in the resources or getting the funds? Like, what all are they doing during this lockdown period? How are they working? What all are they creating? How's that going? Like, because they can't do any gigs or live shows now. So what's happening now in that case? Rahul, sir, you could take it.
Rahul definitely done the most interesting thing amongst most of us. So I'm sure I'd let him actually talk about that.
I mean, for the most part of it, we do nothing because there's too much time in the day and very little to do. We are used to very hectic, monotonous lives. Just being on the road constantly or shooting somewhere. It's for us. It was, I think, the first 2-3 months, and Anirudh will back me up on this. we were on a nice little holiday for the first 2-3 months because we'd never seen something like this occur, where we really did not have to go out and do anything.
Right.
But the revenues have gone down 80% at least for everybody, right? You can't make that same 100% revenue right now, but you can make 20. So you go out and make that 20 having fun. There is there's no restriction to putting music out right now. So fortunately, it's been a very creative time for everybody. Because now that you're not traveling, now that you're not at an airport every other day, now that you don't really have to step out of your house much, you have more time to spend working on your music or any other creative outlet that you have, and it's only resulting in more and more music, at least for us. We're probably now sitting on music that we can release for the next 2 years, and we're good. Like there's no harm in making music. You make it and keep it ready. When the time is right, release it. When you have the right ideas for it, release it. I think the main focus has just been releasing music. There was a lot of hustle bustle around doing digital performances, so we ended up kind of taking the plunge into that as well. We tried to do something that was a little more extravagant than a lot of the other stuff that was coming out of the country at the time. So that only meant that we had to put in a good amount of investment into that, and we had to kind of be really, really creative in pushing that out. One thing I can say after doing a digital event is that it's actually like 5 times harder to sell tickets for a digital event than it is for an on-ground event. So if anybody was afraid that people are not coming out to their live shows, do not do a digital event. It will.
Okay, there's a very interesting question and probably very useful question from Dhruv. He says, how can we work with you guys to learn more about artist management?
And also he's added this question as well, like for a person who's just starting out, like how to decide as in which distribution company should they pick and why will the distribution company pick them, like just that starting advice for a person who's just starting out. Like please combine both the questions and answer. Anirudh sir.
I don't think that the distributor gets to choose an artist. The artist gets to choose the distributor. That's the basis of the relationship. There are multiple ways of doing it and multiple different distributors that exist now. There's guys like Believe, guys like TuneCore, the folks at CD Baby. There's Hungama has their own company in India. So there's OK Listen. So there's a whole bunch of different companies that actually do distribution, and all of them have different sort of arrangements with the kind of percentages that you get. An artist who's slightly more established may actually be able to get a better overall deal versus someone who's not. But apart from that, I mean, on the distribution side of things, there's definitely no way a distributor gets to choose an artist.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying, think of it as how you would choose which mall to go to, man. It's about what you want and where do you get it. There's all these distributors, they have certain ways that they work, and whatever works for you. And yeah, some will take more from you, some will take less from you. Go with the one that takes less from you. It's as simple as that.
Okay, but please answer the other part, which is how can they learn more about artist management from you?
Anirudh, I'm going to let you take this one.
I don't know. Honestly, they need to hit us up, and we'll definitely be able to help them out by jumping on a call and chatting with them. I don't think there is any rule to our business. In fact, I learn something every day. It's not like we don't go through our moments of doubt. And I think we work with, as long as the people you work with, whether it's the teammates that you work with, or as well as the artists that you work with, make you wake up every day and feel excited about wanting to do something new and learn something new every day. I'm sure there's something you can learn from them. And That's something that I feel like is the center of most of what I've learned in the last few years. I mean, I sort of thought 5 years ago when I signed Pratik that, hey, I've been managing bands like Pentagram and Kirsch and Medieval Pundits at that point. So I'm going to be able to book this tour overnight, like a club tour for this guy. It's going to be a walk in the park for me because, hey, I just pick up the phone and call the venues and book the shows. It took me 2 months to convince 5 venues to book him at that time, or 6 actually, and then one of them backed out. So that happened, and we managed to put the tour together. We sold all the shows out. So after that, things were easier. But that first stepping stone was probably the biggest learning for me. That like maybe it's time for all of us to also jump off our high horse a little bit and realize that it's not the same just because of who you work with and what your backstory is. It's all, every day is a new day, and you learn something new every day from what we do. So
Okay, now we need to conclude this and move on to our in-house artist, who will be introduced by Amya.
Yes. So we have Jayant Potharaju. He's a final year law student and he's the general secretary of the Music Society in JGU. He's an independent artist who has released 5 original singles in collaboration with other artists. And he also has a debut EP called Lime Fried, and it's available on all streaming platforms. So Jayant, the stage is yours. You can perform now. Please,
Sure. I hope
yes.
you guys can hear me properly. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Small request, if you could mute your mics, that would be great, because then this thing might pick it up. Thank you, Amya, for the great introduction, and it's honestly a pleasure to be performing for Anirudh and Rahul and Priya ma'am and you. Thanks for hosting this, first of all, and I'm glad for everyone who showed up today, also my friends. So, as Amya said, I've released some music over the past year. I've also, during lockdown, I'm doing songwriting for this New York-based company. I got onto Fiverr, and they basically I said I've done all these things, so they got me. So I basically write songs for couples and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of weird, but I can tell you guys more about it after this. But yeah, I shall play a couple of songs. The first song is called Somewhere Only We Know. It's by Keen. And then the second song will be my own original song. It's called Signals. It's releasing on the 22nd. I hope the audio is going to be okay. I've actually moved the entire setup to my hall, and I've chased my family away to their bedrooms just so that I could get like the perfect setting. So I've added a little bit of reverb. I hope it works out. So, and I hope you guys like it. Oh, simple. Okay guys, I forgot the lyrics 1 second. This is so unprofessional of me, but I am gonna start in exactly 5 seconds.
Can I just jump in over here, Jayant?
Yeah, of course.
Why don't you sing your original?
Okay, I can sing my originals. The thing is, I'm gonna sing you. Okay, I'll sing you an original. It's kind of funky, so I don't know if the gain will pick it up. So I'm gonna decrease the gain a bit, and hopefully it doesn't get distorted.
Don't worry, man. Just.
Alright, so I'll sing you 2 originals then. I'll sing you Fat Sam Wonder, and I'll sing you a bit of Signals just till the chorus, the new song.
Jayant, we will need to pick the one that you are most comfortable with, because we have to wrap up also.
Of course, then I'll go with Fat Sam Wonder.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. There was a fat little boy with his headphones on. He was staring at the world with his eyes closed. It seemed like life had taken its toll. And the boy, he had no place to go. His name was Fat Sam Wonder. Fat Sam way. Young boy wondered why he got so much shame. But when the man looked at him, didn't like what he saw. Fat Sam Wonder couldn't die 33. No, his cause of death couldn't be obesity. No excuse. Fat Sam, don't do this to yourself. There were a lot of little people, a lot of silly people in the dark room, small in the dark room, fed. Big boy had no take his life away so fast. So the world, they pointed fingers and listen to the man. Society, diety, morality said you gotta make a plan. Said you look so thin, you look so weak. We didn't look like you could use something to eat. Said you look so thin, you look so weak. We didn't look like you could use something to eat. Said you look so thin, you look so weak. We didn't look like you could use something to eat. Said you look so thin, you look so weak. We didn't look like you could use something to eat. There was a fat little boy with his headphones on. He was staring at the world with his eyes closed. By now the voices had taken their toll, and the boy, he lost all control. They called him Fat Sam the Blunder, Fat Sam the Weak. Young boy surrendered, stress made him eat. Small request, guys, can I play another song? The songs that's supposed to release, or is it like...
I'm sorry, Jayant. I think we'll have to let you do this later. Please, sorry.
Sure.
I'm so sorry, but we have to
No
wind
problem,
up.
ma'am. No problem, ma'am. And thank you for the opportunity, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna...
Amya?
Thank you, Jayan. Thank you. That performance was amazing. I think this is the kind of talent which actually takes to get to the top. So thank you, Jayan. So now with this, we have come to the end of the session. I would like to thank both our speakers for today for providing such deep insights into this wide topic. I think nothing can get better for a student to get direct knowledge from direct experts in this field. And also, I would also like to thank people who work behind the scenes. Thank you, Saurav Goel. He's the Cultural Secretary of the Music Society and is also part of JSBF. It was his vision to do the session, so I'm glad that we made it, we fulfilled it. And also, thank you to Professor Ram Ramchandra. Thank you, Pulkit sir. Thank you, Vidyut sir, for making this a successful session. I'll also like to thank Professor Priya for accompanying me in this. She brought her experience and her knowledge to this discussion. I think it really helped. And it was a delight for me to be a part of this session. I'm sure for all the viewers as well. Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.